So obviously inflation is weighing very heavily on every single American shoulder right now, and it's causing a lot of people to think about how much money they have towards spending. And Rel and I got into a little debate about what is actually going on, and we didn't want to just take it off camera. So we wanted to record an episode today where we're basically gonna go back and forth on what really is happening with inflation, the job market, what this means for you, and are we actually going to see a recession or are we not seeing a recession? Like, are we bypassing everything? So let's get right into it. There's a couple of articles I'm gonna share. There's a couple of articles Rel is gonna share, but bro, let's just talk about it, right? So obviously, there's a lot when it comes to inflation, right? I think both of us are on the same page with it's not the most important topic right now because we've been talking about it for what, the last 2 years?
Yeah, basically.
Right? So it's not the most important topic, but it is a topic to pay attention to when it comes to consumer sentiment, when it comes to consumer spending, and how consumers are really dealing with their day-to-day lives, right? Because we're obviously consumers ourselves. So right off the bat, when you think about it, it says inflation is weighing very heavily on consumer spending. And if you actually click down here, it's basically going to show you bottom line, like what the stock market is doing. But then it has this little article right here, which says that the retail sales in April, right, rose weaker than expected. So that is this article, which is basically telling you guys that even though retail sales went up in April, they went up less than expected, which is basically showing you that consumers are struggling with inflation. Now, bro, like I want to ask you, like, do you feel like you yourself, bro, are struggling when it comes to, oh, like I should buy this, but I could avoid it right now, or maybe I shouldn't buy this? Like, how are you feeling with that?
Now, there's definitely some things I cut out of my budget that just weren't necessary, or like there's certain items that when I'm shopping, let's say for food, I'll be like, I don't really need that right now. Even if you could afford it, sometimes it just almost feels like it's like an injustice to be paying this price for this item. It's like, yo, I literally refuse to for certain things. And it actually kind of leads me to explain for people what inflation is. Not that I know we understand that it's like an increase in prices, but people don't understand that inflation, right? We're measuring the rate of growth, right? So understand that people think like prices are gonna come back down one day. Just like I used to pay $5 for milk, so price need to come back to $5. Like, nah, if they at $7, they probably gonna stay there forever. What we're trying to do is make sure that it doesn't keep rising too fast. So when we bring inflation down, we're bringing down the rate of growth. That's all we're trying to do. So I want to make that very clear for people. Don't expect prices to go back to what they was before. Just hopefully we could slow down the growth.
Yep. Nah, that's exactly what it is, bro. And that kind of leads me to this point, right? So I know a lot of people, because myself included, yo, if you're buying eggs right now, okay, it is expensive, dog. Like, I know I'm a better cook than Rel, so I'm always chefing it up and getting him all the recipes. So it's like, he kind of has to learn from me when it comes to this stuff. But it says like a household budget is tightening and big brand stores are doubling down now on dollar stores, right? So like Dollar Tree or like Dollar General. So when you guys think about it, why is that? So let's throw it back for the people, bro. Like back in 08, 09, 10, when we were youngins, it's like, be honest, right? Keep it 100%. Were you getting brand name or were you getting like the actual stuff?
What do you mean brand name with an actual stuff?
Like I'm talking like Great Value, or were you getting like actual cereal like Kellogg's?
Great Value game for certain things, but I still got my like Apple Jacks and stuff.
Oh, you did not? Yo, I'm not gonna lie to you. Costco was the wave for my parents. They were getting everything. Kirkland, whatever it was called, that's what I was getting.
Kirkland, you know what I mean? For a fact.
Yeah, so it makes sense. And we were hitting Dollar Trees. When times are rough, people gotta do what they gotta do, and this is what's happening right now. So when you go down to it, it says like makers of food and household staples are pushing deeper into dollar stores because the low-cost retailers are opening thousands of locations. So why would they open thousands of locations, right? Like, look at Dollar Tree store count. It's going up for a reason because people know at times when like this situation where inflation's high, where people are kind of struggling on their budget, people are going to go to those stores. Look at the same thing. Family Dollar store also. It's going up, which is obviously because people are struggling. I know myself. I'm hitting up as many stores as possible to get a deal. You know me, how I shop. And then once again, job market. This is where Rel and I were going back and forth. It says the U.S. economy in 2023. Most people have jobs, allegedly, And people, right, are still unhappy about their money. Because, bro, when you think about it, inflation is so high where it's obviously causing people to be concerned, right? People are not happy. So if I want you guys to read this article for sure, because even though, then this is the biggest thing about it, but it says 61% of lower income people, right, told Gallup their financial situations right here had deteriorated over the last year. They're not happy about it. And then even the 100,000 people who are making 100,000, the six-figure earners, 43% said they actually now feel penny pinched. So, bro, let's talk about it. Like the six-figure earner, back in 2010, when you heard six figures, what did you think?
If I heard six figures, I'm thinking you're rich. I'm thinking you're making big money. And then nowadays you hear six figures and it's like, that ain't really nothing at all, because with the prices of everything kind of drown that out. Six figures right now is going to feel like 60K back then.
Exactly. So my question there is, I know we talked about it off camera, but let's talk about it right now. The U.S. economy, like the whole job market. What do you think about that?
All right, so basically right now, everybody's expecting a recession. We're supposed to be in a recession, allegedly, right? We're supposed to be in a recession. But right now, we're doing fine economically. Job market is super strong. We have the lowest unemployment that we've had in like 50 years or whatever the number was. Record unemployment right now. And people are still spending at a high rate. Retail sales are growing. Even if it's growing less than expected, it's still growing. It's like, yo, why are we not dying economically? And the big reason is the job market is so strong. A lot of it due to the baby boomers retiring during the pandemic. And so there were so many jobs made available, and a lot of these companies were pressed to find people to employ. And I think they're just holding on to these people. They know that, like, letting them go, you might not find somebody else after. And right now, things just seem to be staying right where they're at. If anything, it's really just been tech and banking that's kind of seen layoffs. But in my opinion, when it comes to tech and banking, a lot of those people are able to find jobs right after. Yeah, they might take a pay cut, but they're still able to find jobs, and those jobs are still keeping them afloat, as opposed to other time periods where we was in recessions. People weren't able to find another job. You got laid off. You was really about to be out of work for months. Tech people get laid off. They get hired right again. Like they get hired again, even if it's for a smaller company. You're still going to have money to pay your bills. Even if you're taking out credit card debt, you're still going to have money to pay your minimum so that you don't default. That's why credit card defaults are still low, while credit card debt is still record high.
Yeah, I think those are all valid points, right? At the end of the day, like if you're a high six-figure earner, let's just assume you're not in the high six figures, you're just making like $200,000 or $300,000, and you lose your job, right? Okay, yes, you lose your job. This is where I think is the mishap. I don't think that the tech sector and the bank sector, I think they make up more of the industry sectors than people think they do, if that makes sense. And also, like another thing I think about is like, if those people are getting fired from the jobs, I don't think they're getting replaced right away. Like, I think it takes time. And being someone who's like in that sector where I could think about where everyone's going, it's like it takes time for people to get jobs, and they might have to take a pay cut. So if those people who are high earners are taking a pay cut and they're used to living a certain lifestyle, I think at the end of the day, being a financial literacy show, we know people don't handle their money the right way. Even though they think they do, most people don't. Right? So I think that's one piece of it. So if high earners are taking a pay cut and they're having to resolve to the whole situation where, okay, what do I do with money? I'm used to making 300,000, but now I'm making 220. And to people who aren't making that, like, yo, you make 220. You're valid, bro. But to them, they have to take a different lifestyle. And that's where credit card debt goes higher. So that's one piece of it. But then people who are, making less than six figures, say you're making like 70,000, 60,000, 50,000, you're struggling because inflation is going so high. Are you really keeping up with it? And we know they're not, because this article right here, it says half of the people in the US said they're worse off than they were last year, which is the highest since 2009. So people are clearly not happy. People are obviously very upset. And the same thing with groceries, right? Reason being is most people spend their money on food. So it's like food prices are rising at the highest rate since decades. There's a chart here which I thought was kind of crazy. Like, bro, as I said, I'm a better cook than Rel, so I be making pancakes and eggs and all that stuff. So I gotta show him, like, bro, I've been paying a lot for eggs, bro. 24 eggs is like $6.90 at Stop Shop now. That's wild. You know what I mean? So I think stuff like this is something that people have to think about when it comes to why people are not happy, because you're seeing things go up, and Rel explained it already in terms of inflation. I don't have to repeat it. So it's not like this is going to come down all of a sudden. It's going to grow at a slower rate. So now we have to adjust to that. And I think people are not getting the same jobs anymore as well. Their income is not going up the same rate as inflation.
I agree. And it's always been the case anyways, right? Inflation has always been doing more than people's incomes. It's been like that for a while.
It depends, bro, because most companies actually give you a 2% increase to account for inflation. And most companies would sometimes in the tech and bank sector, which we were talking about earlier, they'll give you more than 2%.
I feel like that's relative to sectors, because I don't think that's in every industry. I think that's probably something that you'll see in like those white collar jobs, probably, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, think about it, right? If you're a worker at a retail store, and let's just say you're making $15 an hour, if you get $15.75, like $15 an hour, you jump up to $15.75, that's an increase.
Yeah, but I feel inflation tends to outpace that.
It might, but at least you're keeping afloat. But
I just mean
hide. Versus now, it's like, bro, inflation is going up like 9.1%, 6%, 7%, and then people aren't getting increase at all because companies are struggling. Then people aren't even getting their bonuses. Nothing's happening. So now you're not even kind of going up. You're not going up at all.
Well, hourly wages did increase, but just obviously not as fast as inflation, because they have increased, but just not as fast as inflation. But like when we talk about people staying afloat, because I know we talk about this off camera, it's like, I know these people might take a pay cut, but they're able to stay afloat. Like, I don't think that, you gotta understand, right? Not you gotta understand, but just think, people who are making like 300K, they weren't check to check. They had a lot of excess savings. So they might live a certain lifestyle, but they had excess savings to where they have cushions that could keep them afloat even while they're unemployed before they get the next job. And then let's say they do get another job that's 220. That gap of 80K that they're missing, still being able to still be handled by the savings that they might have had or the investments they might have had. And the biggest thing to bring up in this talk right here is housing. This is the elephant in the room that nobody wants to acknowledge, is the fact that anybody who owned a house pre-2021, they're all basically rich right now based on the equity that they've built up with these housing prices that'll never come back down to pre-pandemic prices ever. And so if these housing prices are going to stay high, there's so many Americans sitting on equity in their house that they could always take out a home equity line of credit and always have money available to spend in emergency situations. So their net worth is actually a lot higher. And that's also something that separates this time period and this pre-recession more than other time periods, is the equity that everyone has. Because usually housing will come down with the recession. This time, it doesn't seem housing will ever come back to where it used to be. That's why we're not going to see an 08. So people are always going to be sitting on equity. And that's what's something that's keeping this recession away from us right now.
Yeah, so that part I could agree with, right? The equity part, 100% hear you on that. Now, that part is also relevant if you had a house beforehand, right? People who had a house before 2020 obviously saw a run up. If you bought a house mid 2021 to now, you're not really happy with your decision unless you got a crazy deal of some sort, or you did some type of refinancing, which you probably didn't do because the interest rates are high, I'm assuming here. So that's another piece of it. But to your point where, people are better with their money, bro, we've done so much research on this where I'm probably willing to bet, even if you make $300,000, I know you're not saving as much as you should be. You're probably doing what you shouldn't be doing.
You're not check to check.
You're not check to check, right? That part I understand. So that could be a debate, but you can be check to check depending on which family. So people who are out in SF and you let's just say you have an income, which sounds crazy to people. You can have an income of $600,000, be in those certain states like a Cali, like a New York, like a DC, or DMV area in general. DMV is pretty expensive depending on where you are. So all those areas, and you have family, that's not cutting it, which is crazy to say. I know it's crazy to say. I know I sound wild right now, but it's simply because everything is so expensive.
But look
that's the thing. You don't have the ability to save as much as you used to, and that's where this comes in. It's like the whole America's spending more with credit cards.
But look, though, San Francisco and New York City are the two places that's being moved away from the most in the
The
country.
most, yeah,
Everyone's
that's
moving
true.
So these people,
And people are moving to Florida, right?
right, so you're gonna take your equity from your San Francisco home, and you're gonna be a millionaire in Florida at this point because of the type of house you're able to sell. You sell a house in San Fran or New York, for example. That's why people down south hate us for it, because we take
Oh,
the,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Because we're bringing up their home values because we come in with so much cash. So even if you got laid off in San Fran, you can't handle that mortgage no more. You could move, and you see everyone is moving from San Fran, and always go somewhere else and be just fine. And I think that's what's been going on in the economy to keep us afloat right now. Really
Yeah,
good.
and I think I see that, yes. But also, Florida's also getting more expensive now. We see Atlanta get more expensive now. North Carolina get more expensive. People are moving there because it's cheaper than what they're used to. Yes. But once again, those are the high earners, which leads to middle class always taking the L. They're always going to take an L. And that's the biggest thing. It's like the middle class is going to take an L. And it's like, yo, what the heck am I working this hard for if I'm going to take an L? Because y'all, New York people and Cali, I mean, I'm a part of that crew. Don't get me wrong. Like, but we're gonna mess everything up. But I really want to point at this. It's like, yo, Americans are struggling big time with credit, right? And they're spending. Well, actually, I should say struggling. I should say spending, because we haven't had defaults, which I think is also going to take a while for it to hit. Because once the job market does slow down, which I think it will, this is what we're going to see, right? So if you think about it, consumer spending has promoted modest economic growth in the U.S. in 2023, and we always talk about credit utilization, and we talk about everything when it comes to credit cards, et cetera, et cetera. But this is the part where I thought it was very, very interesting. So we looked up some data, and it comes down to this. This is the biggest thing for me. Right here is not a number that I love to see. So it says Americans have an average credit card utilization rate of 25.6%. The average American credit card debt is $5,221. And credit cards have been, the interest rates on credit cards are rising about 16.4% on average. So that's not necessarily numbers that I want to see. And once again, the middle class point is right here. Higher earners, right? Higher income corresponds to larger credit card balances, but consumers in the middle income brackets are the most likely to have credit card debt, because we can't deal with the high inflation, and most likely we're not getting those pay increases that are matching with inflation, and we have to live a certain lifestyle to like that allows us to survive, which comes in credit card debt. So that's something that kind of causes me to be like, I'm not sure where we're going. Like, yeah, it looks good, it looks great, but I'm still a little worried sometimes.
I probably have one more point on this, and it has to do with the housing again. Something else to not forget is the refinancing that transpired in the pandemic time period, where everyone there's a lot of Americans sitting on 2% mortgage interest rates right now. 2%.
They're not going to refinance, you mean, right?
And they're never going to refinance again. And they're sitting on ridiculous equity. Also, their monthly payments are now much lower than they used to be. So even if inflation went up, it's being cushioned by the fact that people already have more money in their pockets based on their refinance. And so they almost balance each other out in a sense. So there's like certain things, like the stimulus that we put into the economy in the pandemic was so much that it has kept us afloat, and it's been hard to kind of drain it back out of us, despite the ridiculous interest rate increases. And I don't know where we're going. If I had to make a prediction, I do predict we will hit a recession. I just don't think it'll be an aggressive one like everyone was originally anticipating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I agree to the point, because at a certain point, you have to most likely go through that phase. Like, you can't kick the can down the road until you have to actually deal with the issue. Right? And the whole debt ceiling that we talked about, yes, it's going to be dealt with. All the news that you hear, look at the data, look at the video that we watched, all this stuff, it will get dealt with. Just like every other time. Are we most likely going to see the stock market react to it? Yeah, we might short term. You know what I mean? Long term, you're good, which leads to our last point. Bro, let's just talk about real quick, bro. So at the end of the day, I know no matter what we disagree on, if this topic might be a little disagreement, but it's like, budgeting is one of the most important things you could do. We always talk about DCA, but at the end of the day, can we just talk about budgeting, what you think you should have in terms of allowing you to live a good lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should be able to make sure that you know exactly what you're spending on and live below your means during this time period. During any time period, it's gonna live below your means, so then you don't have to make no crazy adjustments when things get rocky, right? But also calculate how much you spend per month, know what that number is, multiply it by 12, and have 12 months of expenses.
Are you taking 12 now?
Yeah, I'm saying 12 based on the fact that if we do enter a recession, it's better to have more money than you need than less money than you need. So obviously you want to still invest, but make sure that you guys are having a big pot of money for some emergency situations, because you never know. We can get another pandemic. Anything can happen, y'all. You never know. So you want to be cautious.
Retweet. And also, I would always urge you guys, once you have your nest egg, I want you to put that money in a high yield savings account rather than just leave it in the bank, because you do make more interest on that high yield savings account. Like, if you feel safe, I know some people like to feel safe and they want to keep 6 months in the high yield savings account. They want to keep 6 months in a different bank account, whatever y'all want to do. But high yield savings account is definitely necessary. But hopefully you like this type of video. Let us know how you're feeling right now. If you feel stressed, if you feel great, let us know how you felt about this conversation. If you're still watching, thank you. We appreciate you. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Plus, hit that little notification because we drop
2 videos a week.
You don't want to miss them, man. Appreciate you. Check us out on Monday. Until then, peace.
Peace.
Soundstripe.